Hey everybody, it's Keith with Trades Education Center back with another episode of Trade Secrets, the official podcast of Trades Education Center. And I'm very excited to have with me a very full studio, but full because I have some great people here that I've met in the last couple of years. They are the work-based learning coordinators from the different school systems in Jackson County, which is where we call home. And so we've got Greg Maxwell from Jackson County High School. Say hello, Greg.
Hello, good morning.
We got Cameron.Shirley from Commerce High School.
Good morning.
We've got Christy Drew from Jefferson High School.
Good morning.
And Holly.canup from East Jackson High School.
Good morning. Go Eagles.
And we would have had Kate Wilson from East Jackson, but she had a prior commitment, so we won't be too mad at her. But I'm so excited to have y'all here, and I think part of it is the excitement to make sure people, particularly in the skilled trades area, know what work-based learning coordinators do and how y'all can help them. And so I want to kind of open it up by saying, what is a work-based learning coordinator? What is it that y'all do? And how can it be helpful to not just skilled trades businesses, but all businesses in the area?
Well, for work-based learning, we actually have two categories for work-based learning, or two different areas. There's work-based learning, and then there's a youth apprenticeship program. So I think we are all kind of in charge of both of those at our schools. But work-based learning is where students have the opportunity to leave school and go out into the workforce and get employability, build their employability skills, get training in those different areas that they're interested in for their future. So we do have a lot of students at our schools. Different schools have different programs. At Jefferson, we have agriculture, we have teaching, we have business, healthcare, engineering, mechatronics. There's lots of different areas that the kids are getting training at the school level and completing courses and getting certifications. So what we get to do is connect them with employers in the area where they can go get that real world on-site experience.
Cool. So y'all really hone in on trying to connect their current pathway that they're in with the possibility of, let's find out if that's going to be a good fit for you before you even graduate high school, right?
Yeah, right, Keith. Basically, a work-based learning coordinator, in essence, they're the connection between the employers and the students or the school. Sometimes employers don't know where to start. Contact your local principal. They'll get the right person's name for the work-based learning coordinator, and then they can, initiate a meeting, a tour, whatever it may be. A lot of times I tell my students that I'm a matchmaker. I'm really kind of looking for the right student to fit whatever the company's looking for, and then the company's looking for a certain type of student. So, we're hearing both sides. So really the only connection link between those two entities.
And two other important points about work-based learning is that the student also gets class credit for going out to the workplace. So you're essentially earning money in a work-based learning position. You're earning money while you're could be sitting in a class. And also too, I want to say one thing that I found as a new work-based learning coordinator that has been very important to our students is that they learn what they don't like to do.
Yeah.
And so before you go and get any kind of degree or go to a tech school to major in something, you may already know this is not for me. And that is just as important as discovering what is for you.
That's right.
Absolutely. I'm excited to hear that. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, we're at a smaller school being in commerce. And so at commerce, we partner with the technical colleges a lot too for our students to be able to take dual enrollment classes in especially a lot of the trades. And then we can put them into internships and youth apprenticeship programs so that they can get that hands on experience after they've taken those dual enrollment classes or in conjunction with taking the dual enrollment classes. So we have students taking the welding, we've done plumbing, we've had electrical, HVAC. And so they're taking those dual enrollment classes as well as all the classes that we offer at Commerce. But just being a little bit of a smaller school, we are a little bit more limited than versus some of the larger schools in the pathways that we offer at school. So we really partner with those technical colleges to get those students the training that they need and then put them in the jobs.
So what y'all are saying is there's opportunity.
Absolutely.
Lots.
I,
Lots.
I think,
These are
go ahead.
great kids. Like, we have a vetting process. There's an application process for students. I tell them I've got to make sure you're doing what you need to do at school with the grades and attendance and behavior before I send you out into the workplace to represent Jefferson High School. And so I think, I hear all the time, wow, these are great kids. employers are just blown away. I thought this generation, I thought, that we just didn't have any hope. But now I see, there are great kids out there. So
Yeah.
that's
Absolutely.
And I'll be honest, I've seen some kids that maybe aren't the best academically in school, and we put them in work based learning and they thrive. And they are some of the best employees, and their employers love them. They work hard. They do better in the couple of classes that they are at school because they can come into school late or leave early.
Yep.
And so they do better at school, and they're great employees. And it's so cool to see that.
And for a lot of students, I will say that one of the reasons that that is so advantageous to them is because they do have less academic classes to focus on. And so when you've only got 2 classes and then you're going to work those other 2 hours,
That is
then
your school.
that is your school, right? And with work-based learning, I want to make this clear for everybody, especially the people who may employ these students. It's not just about the time that they leave school. They can work, they may not come to work till 5, but they got out of school at 11:30. Well, just because you don't schedule them from 11:30 to 3:30, that's okay. It's just that they have to have the same amount of work hours that they have class time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, if for one block, they have to be at work 7.5 hours that week.
Okay.
So that's what's important for our, I feel like for our workplace people, our hiring specialists, HR directors, et cetera, to know that these students are not just confined to the hours they're out of school.
So what I'm glad you mentioned the hours part, because I think that is something employers need to know. So what's the minimum requirement that they need to have that student in their business working?
So that varies by school because at East Jackson, we also operate on an A-B schedule for certain students. So our honors kids may only have a job that they are employed on A days, for instance. Okay, so in their schedule, they may have an A day only work-based learning period, but they go to work in the afternoons. Right. So they have fourth block A day work-based learning, but they might work on a Tuesday afternoon at 5 o'clock, even though their A day schedule reflected they were going to go to work on Monday. All right. For those students, because it's only an A day, it's 3.25 hours per week that they have to prove that they were at work. If you had a whole block, one whole fourth period block that was listed as work-based learning, you're required to be there 7.5 hours. And you turn in your pay stubs that reflect your hours to us at the end of the month that proves that you worked that many hours that month per week. And then for students who have 2 blocks, of course, that's 15 hours per week.
Okay.
Okay. And usually that's our most common, 1 block or 2 blocks.
So it's really a matter of the student and the employer, right?
Right.
That connection in terms of what the employer's looking for, what the student's looking for their schedule. So it's really a good, like you said, a matchmaker.
Well,
Absolutely. And not only that, but we can work with our athletes sometimes. They need to be back on campus. So we'll have them work in the morning. So, there's a lot of moving variables, a lot of moving parts, which is really the fun part of being a work-based learning coordinator. And a lot of we don't
problem
control.
solving, yeah.
But once we problem solve and project manage all this together, it's really a rewarding, adventure to watch a student thrive. And I kind of wanted to go back to something Christy and Cameron had mentioned. We need to reemphasize our youth apprentices and what that really is.
Yes.
It's really the perfect storm. It's somebody that wants to be an electrician. That's what they want to do. They're in classes, taking electrician classes, and we've got them placed. So it's almost like this triangle.
Wow.
It's the perfect storm, and that's what they're going to do. They're going to go to a technical college, maybe they're going to go into the IEC and get an apprenticeship, or we'll go straight to work or whatever. But that's really the ultimate goal of work-based learning.
Yes.
There's different levels, but that is the apex of them all.
Mm.
We could have students that are just, maybe it doesn't match with their career, but they're sort of interested. Maybe they're eliminating one career versus another. There's lots of options, and some students just need employability skills as well too. So
That's right.
we are one employer called me the other day. They said, "Well, you guys are like a pre-HR, aren't you?" Like,
Yeah.
I like that. I'll go with that one.
I mean, that's part of it too, is learning. It's never a bad thing to have a job while you're looking for the next one.
Yes.
Right. So, I mean, the fact that they can get in now and start learning skills, whether they use it down the line or not. But man, I see that being the pinnacle though. If that student already knows, I know for sure this is what I want to do.
Yes.
Man, y'all got that path for them too.
Well,
That's
and what's cool is for those students, that helps them in the future. Like I have a student that she completed over 1,000 hours between her junior and senior year with working with kids in daycare, interning, elementary schools. She wanted to be a teacher. So to certify them as a youth apprentice in the state of Georgia, they have to have 720 hours, have that certification. It all has to line up like Greg was talking about. And so for her, I was able to certify her before she even left high school. But she emailed me last week and said, "Hey, Miss Drew, I'm getting ready." And she just graduated last year. "I'm getting ready to apply for the College of Education in the school that she's in. Can you send me all of my paperwork?" And so all of that information is going to help her avoid doing more internship hours
Mhm.
and things like that in college. So it's going to save her time there. It's going to save money, right? And I told her, when you get out of school and you're applying for jobs, I know one time at Jefferson we had 100 applications for one teaching position. And I said, "Don't you think to be able to say I've been doing this since high school will bump you up to the top of that list?" And so it's really a great opportunity for these kids. And um, something I wanted to add this too, Cameron mentioned dual enrollment and those kids working with the tech schools, whether it's academic classes or classes towards their career. Like I have one student right now, he has first period work-based learning, first period, sorry, weight training. He's a football player. Second and third period, he's dual enrolling through Lanier Tech for his um, math and ELA. And then he has fourth period work-based learning, but he has to be back in the afternoons for football, right? So what he does is he works Monday, Tuesday, Thursday for longer periods of time, and then he has Wednesdays and Fridays to do his dual enrollment classes and all of those things. But next semester, he has one class on campus, 3 periods of work-based learning. So football will be over. So once he's finished that class, he can go and stay at work the rest of the day. So it's just a great opportunity for them. Just it offers that flexibility.
Well, and two, I'm seeing both from the post secondary education side and the employer side. Like post secondary, if they're going to follow up like your student that did the working with kids, they're going to walk into that program and shine
That's right.
because they've had that much experience they've already learned. They've already been around veterans who know what they're doing. They're going to walk into an education program and have a lot of input
That's right.
at a young age, which is incredible, which is great to have in teaching.
Yeah, Keith, one of the biggest trends that I have just recently seen, because I'm starting my 5th year, is that I am seeing not just any student ask for work-based learning, but some of the highest grades, some of the, valedictorians. And so back in my time, which was, 100 years ago, you did internships more in college. And
Yeah.
now I'm seeing the trend to do it more in high school so they can get the opportunity to apply to a college, and it sets them apart. So we're seeing that apex as well. Those students are also getting clinical hours in healthcare and things like that. They're actually counting those hours as well. My electricians are counting those hours towards any of their apprenticeships. So it's really cool. They're already collecting all of that data and keeping that, and that's helping them with their next opportunity already.
Does it seem like working with post secondary technical schools, colleges, does it seem like they're getting some more flexibility as in terms of what they accept and what they offer in terms of schedules? Like for students that have already been doing something in a particular field, they might want to be working in that field while they're going to that 2 year or 4 year college. Are we seeing more flexibility on their side when it comes to those students?
At our big CTAE conference that we have every summer, it was held in Athens this year, and there was a panel. It was someone from the technical college system. There was someone from what's it called?
University system.
University system. There was a work-based learning, and then there was was it a CTAE? Anyhow, but they gave the example of there was a student that they had talked with who he took drafting classes in high school. Then he went to a technical school. He took drafting classes there. Now he's at, I think, UGA taking drafting classes there. So it is being recognized that there needs to be more systems and processes to keep those kids, again, from repeating those things that we call it articulation
Yes.
agreements and things like that, because it just, it just makes so much more sense, you know.
Yeah, I know one of the articulation agreements, like she said, they're working on a lot of those. Yeah. There's a lot of them that if they complete certain pathways and pass end of pathway exams at our high schools, then they're able to transfer that into college credit. And so like one of them that we use a lot at our school is the teaching as a profession pathway. And so when they pass that that pathway and pass the end of pathway exam. They have a portfolio that goes along with it. They've done a lot of hours. A lot of those students end up coming to us for work-based learning.
Yeah.
And then they're stepping into college with at least one class credit, if not more, just because they've completed that pathway in high school.
That's great.
Well, and I was just going to say one of the advantages of being in work-based learning is not only are you getting job experience, but you're also getting some experience in work ethic and all of the soft skills and understanding about punctuality and attendance.
Yeah.
And we do evaluations, of course, on our students, but we also don't interfere with a business.
Yeah.
So if the business hires a student, just because they're a work-based learning student doesn't mean they can't be fired by the business.
Mhm.
So I want him to make that very clear to our business
Mhm.
partners that they are in charge. We are not, we are there to help and support, but we also don't interfere on the backside, so to speak. If someone is
Yeah.
not doing as promised, then of course they are welcome to fire at will. And so I just think that's an important part of it, in that they understand that we're also grading them on criteria about work ethic and all of the soft skill. Well, we call them soft skills, but
Sure.
there's probably a better name for that. But
No,
That's what I try to encourage my kids too when I tell them, like when I'm talking to them at the beginning of the year, like I want them to communicate everything with me. So if they're having an issue in the workplace, whether it's with a supervisor, or that's part of our job is to help them navigate how to handle those situations in the workplace, how to handle turning in a 2-week notice if they need to, and working out that notice. And so, I mean, we love for that not to happen, but it does. And so when it does, that's kind of our job, is to teach them how to properly handle those situations that come up in a workplace where otherwise they may just say, I'm not coming back, and not show back up at work. And so that's kind of what we try to do.
those communication pieces are imperative.
Yeah.
And so stressing to our students, are just because someone corrected you, that's not fireable. And it's also not quittable, so to
Yeah.
speak. And so we try to help them work through each of those situations that they have never encountered. And just because you've been in school doesn't mean you've had adversity. And so for many of them, adversity is encountered for the first time, especially between them and an adult, especially if they've been a good student their whole life. This adversity at work and being corrected and responding positively to feedback, those are all invaluable lessons.
Well, and like Holly said, the employer has that right to release that student. But I tell employers, I'm here to help as well.
Yeah.
If there's something that you see a student struggling with,
Tell 'em.
let me know. I can work with them and help them with that. And that's a cool feeling for us too, is then to go back the next time and visit with that employer, and they say, "Oh my goodness, it's so much better. This is awesome." That's why we do this, is we want to see the kids improve and learn and grow, and be able to help the employers with that as well. So.
Yeah.
And I wanted to add on to what Cameron was saying about being a mentor and stuff. We actually will help the students from the very beginning of the process. We'll help them develop the resumes, teach them all about the sections. They'll write it. We'll help tweak it, critique it. And then not only that, but we'll actually start doing like interview practices. Sometimes I've had multiple ones with that. We teach them how to handshake. It's just all sorts of weird kind of stuff.
Eye contact.
But we're doing all of that with them to give them the best opportunity, and we're telling them the why. This is why you do this.
Yeah.
We're showing them how to write emails. I just had a student yesterday. He had to send in his resume. I taught him how to write the email to appropriately send to him, and how to follow up a couple of days later if he hasn't heard anything. So we're guiding them through all that process the whole time. 2-week notices, any kind of resignations, any kind of job changes. One of the most rewarding things to me is when you take a student who got their job maybe at Arby's or fast food, their first job, and that's fine. I'm not knocking that or anything. But if they wanted to be something else, and they had that skill set, and we found that opportunity, and we rehearsed, we did the resume, we practiced, and they got the new job, and they just kind of elevated their level maybe to that apprenticeship that we talked
Yeah.
about. That is so rewarding for me personally. That is like the coolest thing in the world during the year.
And that
for me.
is a pinnacle. But one thing that I want to really brag on our team about is that we also don't do everything old school. We have spent a lot of time in the past couple of years, I feel like, helping children to navigate Chat GPT, using it to their advantage, it coming up with questions that might possibly come up with an interview. So we have really worked hard with students to also caution them about different tech tools that you can use for things like that, and not just relying on that.
what I'm hearing is work-based learning is a supportive system that once you're out of high school, we don't have those support systems, right? When we get to, if we wait until after high school to get that first job, boy, y'all got such a great support system for these kids. And to know that they've got someone that they can talk to, the employer has somebody they can talk to kind of, I mean, like you said, yes, they can fire them, but at the same time, you got a lot of great support to maybe not make that happen
Right.
as much as possible. Um, and y'all are helping them see that those hard conversations that an employer might have with them, those are opportunities. Those aren't problems; those are opportunities. And what I'm hearing is every student in Jackson County needs to be doing work-based learning. That's
They'll have to hire.
that's what I'm learning. I mean, that's I don't know about y'all. That's what I'm hearing.
It's a very popular program. So
It is.
I do want to make sure that we say this part of it. If an employer's interested in advertising with us, we have our own work-based learning job board virtually that we all share together. That's one of the coolest things. I love these ladies. We work so well together. If I have an opportunity that I find that it doesn't work out for me and my students, I just don't have the right student, I'll let everybody else know if
Yeah.
there's an opportunity for them. But we share this job work board. So if an employer wants to reach out to us, we will post whatever they want
Mhm.
as far as any kind of business opportunities, job opportunities. And it doesn't have to be a work-based learning student. It could just be, they're looking for help,
Yeah.
Yeah,
whatever it is.
sure,
Right.
sure.
So
And also, we do a lot to promote that business because when we go out and do a visit, I take a picture of the student in their workplace, and then we really brag on them on our Instagram page, and we in turn are saying this business that also supports kids. And so, because we always mention the business name where they're working, so it's free advertising for them as well. So
Which
there's some benefits.
which makes our friend Edward Hooper really happy,
Yes.
right?
yeah,
But no, I wanted to mention that. I'm glad you mentioned that about how well y'all work together. And it's something that I've noticed just coming into starting the school here, working with the chamber, and starting to learn who all you guys are in the different schools. Super, super admire how well the school systems get along. And not just get along, y'all really support each other. I mean, I see it from the conversations with y'all, the different principals that I've got to meet from the different systems. It's I I hope it's not unique just to this area, but it is something that I truly admire, and I think a lot of other, areas could really learn a lot from how Commerce, Jefferson, and Jackson County all work together. It's a beautiful thing.
Well, like just recently, we had a probe fair that was hosted at East Jackson, and we all took our kids over, to the schools, through our camp, like Jefferson, the counseling department, student services department coordinated that, but I got to go help chaperone, make sure they were behaving. And it's just, I don't know, it's cool. It's just a great opportunity. That's been a huge blessing for me. Greg said he's been doing this 5 years. This is my third year. Um, Cameron, six, and then Holly, two. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Well, can y'all tell me? I don't know how long it'll take. I want to know how y'all got here. How did you decide this is what I want to do? Was it you backed into it, you got asked, and you're like, well, I guess so. I want to hear it from each one of y'all. I would love to hear how you got into it because I think the story of where people get to and how they get there, I think is inspiring and also lets students know, man, these people really care about what they do. So take it away.
Okay.
I guess I'll start.
All right.
Well,
Move it, Mike, over.
I'm the career changer. So I did engineering and sales and was exposed to a lot of different industries. I did a lot of business management and development. So I got to see a lot of different industries. And I did that for 15 years. And eventually, I'd had a mentor back in high school that I said, I'm going to be like my Mr. Thompson was and go back and teach. And so when Empower came around, I was like, I want to go to Empower because I like the concept that Mr. Easler was touting to the community, and I want to be a part of that. And so that made my jump to do that. And work-based learning came open. I interviewed, I got it. So I was a good candidate. And I've also been in education now for, I think this is the 15th year as well. So
Good on you.
I'm one of the elder kings. Anyway, so I think just the blend of the two has helped me out. I think you've got to be a really good at project management. You need to be able to speak to a different variety of people. You got to go on a construction site, speak to someone, got to go talk to a doctor in a nurse's office. There's a lot of different things. So it's the best job in the school system, in my opinion.
it is.
So I'm kind of similar. So I went to Clemson and graduated, and I was
We'll forgive you, but go ahead.
go Tigers. um, I was a ag business major, so I never planned on teaching. And I was in South Carolina doing farm credit, and so I got married, moved down here, and they're like, "You're going to start our ag program at Commerce." So I stepped into teaching and started the ag program all at the same time, and I loved it. I loved it, but after I had my kids, I wanted to be home more.
Mhm.
So I went and talked to our superintendent, Dr. Talbert, and I said, I want to stay in commerce. I love what I'm doing. And she said, I've got a job for you. And so they kind of smushed two things together and made a job. And it was dual enrollment coordinator and work-based learning coordinator. And at the time, there was only about 20 students per semester in each program. And so it was great. Well, then over the last 6 years, it has slowly grown to where I had over 100 kids per year in work-based learning, and I had over 100 kids per semester in dual enrollment. And so
So you're
it,
doing your job well.
so something happened. So I over that transition, I was able to pass dual enrollment back off to our counselor, and then I'm also CTA director now. So I'm kind of like Greg. I love what I do, and my principal, he kind of asked me when I was making that jump. He's like, "Are you gonna be okay, like going out and meeting with adults?" And I was like, "I love that, you know." And so it's kind of the best, yeah, because then a lot of teachers like they're used to talking to kids, and that's it.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
so, I mean, it's kind of, to me, it's like the best of both worlds. Like, I'm still working with kids every day, but I get to go out and see them at work. And that's so cool to me. I love it.
I love it. That's awesome.
Yeah. So I have been teaching. This is my 26th year.
Good on
In
you.
education. I taught
Elder
business.
Queen.
Whew, I feel old, but I taught business for 23 years and loved it. I loved the kids could see a purpose behind it. And that's a benefit. That's one of the bonuses to teaching a CTAE class is, they see the purpose.
Mm.
And I kind of joked like even when I was younger, um, and said, if I ever get tired of being in the classroom, if the kids are just getting on my nerves every day, then work-based learning would be cool, right? My sister actually did work-based learning. It was called CBE back then. For my dad had his own business. And so she worked in the office for my dad. And so I saw that side of it as a teenager. And, then our previous work-based learning coordinator at Jefferson, she retired, but then she came back and she was just doing work-based learning part-time. So kind of like Cameron, it was smaller program. And when she retired, she said, okay, she told the administration, she said, this needs to be a full-time job. There are so many opportunities out there for kids and for employers. She said that I just don't have the time to do. It needs to be full-time. And so I had kind of made that comment to her about, hey, yeah, I think I'd like to do work-based learning if I'm, ever get tired. And so then next thing I know, the principal's coming to me and saying, hey, what about work-based learning? And I said, well, I'm not tired of being in the classroom yet, but I knew if I didn't take the opportunity,
Yeah.
then might
You
not
might not get it again.
right.
Yeah.
And so I'm so glad I did. It's just so rewarding. And I remember when I first did my initial work-based learning like training that the state has, the gentleman that was doing the training, he said, it's the best job, but it's the hardest job.
Mm.
And he said, you could just see it on his face and the way he presented that information to us, how rewarding and how much he enjoyed it. So I'm very glad that I stepped over into the work-based learning world, and it's a lot of fun. So
Love it. Awesome.
Okay, so I taught school for 32 years and then retired. I taught middle school science, and then I became a librarian. And through being a librarian at East Jackson High, I got to witness Laura Boswell working as our work-based learning person. And so I always thought her students, when they weren't at work, like for instance, if they had fourth period work-based learning, but they didn't go to work that day, they would come hang out in the library with me. And so I would get to see those students and hear about what they were doing. So at the end of my career, I was like, that would be such a great job. And by that time, Laura had left, and there was another work-based learning coordinator. And I retired I went to Empower for a couple of years, and then I retired. And I went and got my insurance license because I wanted to do something completely different.
Yep.
So I went to school. I went to cosmetology school for a while at Athens Tech. I got my insurance license because I didn't know what I was going to do. If I was going to sell insurance or do hair.
You've walked the work-based learning life.
Yes, yes. And as an adult, as an
Yes.
old adult. And so I finished up at Athens Tech, enjoyed that experience. It also does give me a unique perspective because I have been through a program
Yeah.
recently. And then also, I have just studied for a test that then you
Mhm.
can turn into a career like
Mhm.
insurance. And so I worked at Commerce Insurance Agency for a couple of years. I really enjoyed my time there. And one of my favorite things about selling insurance was selling business insurance. And so I got to meet with all these people who had their own business. They had started a tree cutting service, or they had started a restaurant, or they were opening a new business in commerce to sell crafts. And so I would meet with all these people to decide their work comp, et cetera, right? And so just meeting with them and going to chamber was a lot. I found out that I really liked adults too. And so
That's a thing for teachers. It is a thing.
It
yeah,
is.
yeah. And because when you teach school, you're just around other
Yeah.
school teachers. So everyone's, most of the time, they're like-minded.
Yeah.
And so there's this great variety of business owners out there, especially entrepreneurs, that I just find intriguingly brave. And they're so courageous. And people who are in charge of places like Toyota, like those people are brave. There's a lot of liability in that type of work.
Yeah.
And so I just thought I liked the insurance business because of, again, it was always problem solving, trying to figure out what product fit what business.
Yeah.
And so I was in my office one day and I found out there was a part-time position available for work-based learning. And I contacted Mr. Schultz to ask him some questions about it. And he was like, well, you should apply if you're interested. And so I did. And I talked to Kate, who was already doing the other part-time position at East Jackson. And she seemed to like me pretty good. And so I applied, and I got the job. And I'm telling you, it has been, I left insurance, and which I do miss. That's a great opportunity if you're looking for a straight out of high school job. Selling insurance is great. You can take a test just like real estate. You become certified, and then you're on your way. But this has been a great change for me, and I have loved every single minute. And part of the best part of work-based learning is being able to work with Christy and Cameron and Greg, and see that camaraderie of professional colleagues who really do just want what's best for students.
What I heard in all your stories is the connection that each one of y'all has had between education and business.
Yeah.
Education and work. Every one of y'all have that connection. And
Yeah.
and I'm not going to cite, I'm a recovering public school teacher myself. So I'm not going to cite teachers, but people that have only done that, they have a more limited perspective
Yeah.
on what it means for businesses to look at students. And so I hear that from each one of y'all. And that, to me, that adds just that next layer of effectiveness for y'all. And I think for the students, parents in the area, y'all need to know, like, these folks are in your corner. They're in your kids' corner. And businesses, they're in your corner. Like, they're trying to send y'all great kids. Because I think that's another thing too, is long term. I think we're in an area where a lot of people are more likely to grow up and stay
Yes.
and not necessarily move off.
And it's growing.
And it's growing,
There's more,
right?
it's coming.
Yeah, and that's one thing about the chamber that they stress. They want them to work here, play here, stay here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And so now, speaking of businesses and trying to get them on, you talked about the job board. What's the best way for a business that hears this? I want to get involved with that. Who do they go to? Who do they contact?
They can contact any of us. And I don't know if you have a way to put our email
Sure.
on there. You can contact any of us, and we, like we said, we're really good about sharing that with each other. So if you contact one, we can share it with everybody else. And I know, even like at our school, like I work just this semester with over 55 different employers. And so our community is so great about being willing to take work-based learning students and work with them. There is very rarely a time that I call anybody and say, are you willing to take a work-based learning student? I've got, this kid that I think is a great fit. But I think that's also a testament that we really try to place kids in places that we feel like it'll be a good fit. So we try to make sure that the business has a great experience too.
Yeah.
And so it's very rarely that we call somebody and try to place a student that they're not willing to work with somebody. So you can contact any of us at either of the schools, and we will happily share your information with the others.
Cool. And speaking of businesses taking on students. Sometimes they're under 18. So, Christy, you said there's something in the state that's in the works that helps with that.
Yes, so I brought this little flyer with us with me today, just so I would remember. But there is a House bill. It's House Bill 402,
Okay.
it's Georgia House bill. And if you hire any business, if they hire work-based learning students who are under the age of 18, then there is a tax credit, I think is how it works, where they can get a discount on their workers' compensation insurance. And so, like for one student, it's 2%. And I remember telling an employer one time, I said, I know 2% is not a lot. He said, do you know how much workers' comp is? And I said, no, sir. And he said, it'll make a dent. And so, even if it's on a work site or job site, where I know there are, Department of Labor guidelines on things that students can
Absolutely.
do that are under 18, and we wouldn't ever want to put a student in an unsafe situation,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But I've had students who are on a work site and they're picking up trash and
Absolutely.
cleaning up and doing those things. And then, or like I even had, we were doing construction at the middle school, and I had a student there working with the construction company. And he said, we're fixing to get into more of the indoor things, like, installing the plates, on the like electrical plate, things like that, that they
Yeah.
could do
Yeah.
and take things off of the plate of those professionals who are trained and certified to do. But the
Yeah.
students, they're still in that environment. They're seeing, and they're able to watch, different things being done. And it's just still great experience for them,
Yeah.
even though maybe they can't do as much until they turn 18, hands on. So I
Well,
think it's a cool opportunity.
well, we've seen that here at our school where we've had a couple of apprentices come through our program where they're already working in the field or they just got hired before they started. The fact that they're in the field, they're not getting to do much yet, but they're in the field and they're watching. They fly when they get here because they're immersed in it. So I can see that being the same thing for work-based learning students, where that's going to impact their pathway back at the school, right? Where if they're immersed in that area, then they're going to come back and be that much more fired up about their pathway. So that's cool. Any other? I think we've covered a lot. Any other thoughts? Any final thoughts y'all have just about work-based learning, businesses in the area? I just want to like toot y'all's horn over and over, but
Well, one other thing I said is I wanted to say is, I've had students work all over. So I've had students in Gainesville and, in Madison County, or I've had students, in Commerce and Barrow County and Athens, and so we get to go visit those students twice each semester, which is my favorite part of work-based learning, is getting out and seeing the kids and talking to their employers and hearing the great things they're doing. And so, if you're not just in Jackson County, still reach out to us. Or even if you're a little farther out, we can put you in
put you in touch.
contact with that work-based learning coordinator in that area. So,
Absolutely.
yeah, we're happy to help however we can.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank y'all so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Craig,
you.
Cameron, Christy, Holly. Thank y'all so much. Kate, sorry we missed you. But thank you guys so much. And folks, again, if you're a business in the Jackson County area or any adjacent counties, for sure, I'll have their email addresses at the end of this episode, but please feel free to go or to their school websites. You can find them there too.
Yep.
That's Jackson County High School, East Jackson High School, Jefferson High School, Commerce High School, and Power for that matter. So yeah, look them up. Please contact them. Let them know that you want a work-based learning student. It could be your next great employee.
That's right.
It could be the next kid that runs your business. So thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of Trades Secrets, the official podcast of Trades Education Center. Y'all have a good one.